संग तज मन मिथ्या कुसंग शरण प्रभु की आजा रे पल पल जीवन जा सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति 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 So we are in the final chapter, or the chapter after the final chapter. And we started the book, if you remember. We started on a certain premise that our life is not exactly the way we would like it to be. And why is it not the way we like it to be? It's because there's something within us that makes it what it is. Unfortunately, that thing is not visible to us. It's a very, very sad thing that everybody knows what's wrong with us except ourselves. And therefore, anybody that tells you there's something wrong with you is doing you a great disservice, because now you have an opportunity to correct that. However, that's not how we look at it. We look at anyone criticizing us as a very negative and bad person. And of course, we are free to criticize everybody else. So we are extremely charitable where we need not be, and incapable of receiving where we should be receiving. But the fact remains that my life is the way it is because this is the way I am. This is the way I think. This is one of the most important things for us to understand. Because my life could well be way better than what it is if I could identify what's wrong with me. If I'm a very stubborn person, I'm incapable of taking in new ideas, I'm never going to know this. If I'm a very hasty person, I won't know this. And the end result is my life is simply not what I'd like it to. So we have to deal with our theories, with our knowledge, with our understanding. And through the journey of the book, that's what we did. But at the end of the book, it is very important to remind ourselves what the purpose of that knowledge is. So the purpose of knowledge is
to figure out what's the right action.
Is action, correct. The purpose of knowledge is action. If you say, I'm very knowledgeable, but your actions are zero, then that is your knowledge. So the purpose of knowledge is to direct action. That's what it's supposed to do. So therefore, if we talk about being knowledgeable or having such good thoughts and having such good intentions and being so smart, all that must show itself in what we do. So action is the purpose of knowledge. Not only is it the purpose of knowledge, it does one more thing. What does it do?
Helps us confirm if our knowledge is correct.
Very good. Only one person has bothered to read or listen or something. Everybody else is so quiet. It is the verification of knowledge. Whatever your theory is, execute it and see what happens. People have so many theories on relationships. Well, execute and see. So much. I think it should be like this, and I should think it should be like that. Very good. Execute whatever your theory is. See what happens. It's very, very interesting. Swamiji gives this example. So, one man was a very famous marriage counselor, and he asked to meet Swamiji. So Swamiji, I mean, obviously he didn't know anything about the gentleman. So the other people said, "Oh, he's coming to meet you," and also, okay, so what? Very famous. He's like a marriage counselor, and he's helped so many people, and he's very well known, and he's a very respected person, and very popular person. And if he meets you, then this will happen, that will happen. Everyone always talks like that. So he said, okay, fine. I mean, anyone can meet him. So he was coming, wanted to meet him. So Swamiji said yes. And then he came to meet him. All these people had told him about what a great counselor he was, and this and that. And what did he come to meet Swamiji for? His own marriage was in difficulty. So he wanted some advice. Now, I think it's a good thing. If you are in difficulty and you go to somebody for advice, it's a good thing. It's a fantastic thing, because it's better to look like an idiot for 10 minutes and have a good life rather than not look like an idiot and have a bad life. So it's a great thing. It's a great thing that he could ask for help and ask for advice. But the point over here is the point that is here is the your verification of your knowledge is in you executing it. If you claim that you will teach people how to be efficient, then let's see your efficiency. If you claim you will teach people how to whatever make an atom bomb, then you make an atom bomb, because knowledge is verified by action. Now, if you're very smart, you will know it is going to be right. So you don't need to verify. But the fact is, unless the action does that, that knowledge is not true. Okay, so Einstein knew that his theory was correct. But the rest of the world knew only when they did something dramatic, like burst an atom bomb or something, because it was verified in that action. Right? So action is the purpose of knowledge. Action is the verification of knowledge. So let us not do knowledge so much that we forget what this whole thing is about. And that is why one of the famous verses in Sanskrit literature, which almost everybody who is associated with Sanskrit will always know this verse. It is Uddhamena karyani siddhyanti nacha manorathena. Suptasya singhasya mukhe na pravishanti mruga. Into the mouth of a sleeping lion, the animals do not enter. Without effort, nothing is ever obtained. By thinking about things, if things could happen, you know how they say in English. What is that saying in English? If wishes were horses, beggars would ride. If you can think all things and then you have them, then life is of course very easy. It doesn't work like that. So action is critical. The reason why I go on and on about action is because we go on and on about knowledge. So because we go on and on about knowledge, people think that knowledge is a substitute for action. Knowledge is not a substitute for action, it's a direction to action. Okay. Have I made enough drama on this? Is it all clear? Very good. Okay, so then let's go forward. Any questions up to this point? All right, so Thought does not get things done. It is action. Thought does not get things done, nor knowledge. It is action that bears fruit. All right? Important line. Nothing comes by thinking. If you think of murdering somebody, you will not go to jail. When you go and you try to do something about it, then the law will get involved. Thought does not get things done, nor knowledge. It is action that bears fruit. Results come because of the action. This much I hope is clear up to this point. Then, further, use increases discrimination. I mean, I do all this drama to emphasize all these points, but I cannot do enough drama to emphasize this one. Use increases discrimination. You know, when you start working and then you have a result in mind, you're forced to apply your intellect. When you start talking all this stuff that airy-fairy people do, which is, oh, we'll do what we can, and then whatever has to happen will happen. Not whatever has to happen will happen. How much can you control your own action so that that result actually takes place? It's not a hit and miss. It's not like, maybe hoga, maybe nahi hoga. It is, you have determined it will happen. Maybe you cannot determine the time, but you can determine that something will happen. So use increases discrimination. I mean, that is why doing karma together is so important. Because when you're doing karma, there is a goal to be achieved. There's something to happen. Now you have to see whether that thing actually happened or not. And if it has to happen, the discrimination has to be so sharp. Not, oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't know he will do this. I thought he understood that. No, no, no. You will ensure that the people who have to understand something have understood it. When one does not keep the room clean, one cannot see the dirt. Do you realize the significance of that line? Those who are habitually unclean do not have the discrimination to know that there is dirt there. They won't see it. When one has not used one's discrimination in any field, one cannot see further into it. When one has not used one's discrimination in any field, one cannot see further in it. One develops fine aesthetics by using one's sense of it. Even in complaining. Complainers can complain even when no one else sees something wrong. Have you seen these people who are very, very good at complaining? They will find something to complain about because it's an art they have developed that they can find something to complain about. Fine taste in food is cultivated by using it. So the more you use a faculty, the better you become at it. So therefore, the more we use our discrimination, the better we become at it. But how do you use your discrimination? How will you use it?
By executing action.
By executing action is not the full answer.
By deciding how to execute action.
Yeah, by executing the right action. In the sense that the action that will get you the result which you are seeking. You cannot say that, oh, I don't know, I did everything, but other people did not support me, or something, or the other people say. Most common is, I didn't think he would not understand. I didn't think he will not do this. I thought he was going to do that. What is all this supposed to mean? Why didn't you ensure that things will be what they are supposed to be? No, that person is not doing this. That person is saying this. They let him say or do whatever he wants. You say and do whatever you want. So when you start thinking like this, okay, I have to achieve a certain end, and therefore, what are all the what should I say, all the leakages that I have to plug? If I don't plug everything, then it will leak out. You ensure that it is not okay. Maybe it will done, not done. You ensure it is done because if nobody has thought of it, at least you have thought of it. Okay. I don't know if, I mean, I can't see anyone's face, so I don't even know if I'm explaining too much, I'm explaining too little. But can you all put on your videos? Okay, they give this fan badges in Facebook, I understand. Somewhere they give fan badges. I have to give you a fan badge, Deepraj, because you're at least telling me something. Please, everybody, put on your videos. All right. So, Deepak Sethi, you had something?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that you said that it is correct action which improves your discrimination, right? But in the previous sentence, you said further, comma, use increases discrimination. And I can relate to that because even if you get it wrong, it will still increase your discrimination because then at least you know that that was not the right way because you did not get the right result. So the first statement that just action and the use of whatever you thought through will help you to increase your discrimination.
They both the same thing. What is the difference you're seeing between the two?
No, you corrected Deepraj by saying that it is correct action which increases discrimination. I'm saying any action will increase discrimination because if you get the right result, then you will learn it from doing it the right way. If you get the wrong result, you will still learn it doing it because you took action.
Okay, fine. Yes, correct. But in this case, we were talking about, yes, use of your discrimination will improve it.
Yeah.
So you used it, you did a wrong action, and then you improved it. So as long as you are thinking in terms of where you're trying to get and ensuring that it is got, like how maybe at work you did it, right? You can't tell your, I don't know, whoever it is, okay, the CEO of the organization, you can't tell the board or whoever it is the CEO tells things to, that, well, I did my best, it didn't work, I'm so sorry. The CEO, whatever job, if he talks like that, you can't say that, oh, I told these people to do these things but they didn't do them. No, you can't say that, because the whole point of the CEO is that you are responsible for it getting done. So you did that at work. That is why you had all these high positions at work. But we don't get it that we are the CEO of our own lives. And people are not going to do what I would like them to do. I have to ensure that I get done whatever I'm supposed to do. So if I keep on sort of figuring out, just like the CEO does, figuring out what will. So you do something, then it didn't give the result. Then you say, okay, so this didn't work with that person. Now I'm going to figure out another way of doing it. Or it's impossible with this person. I can't even try. I must try with somebody else because it's not going to work. So as you keep doing it, as right action is all actions that take you to the goal. That was the right action. So you kept doing whatever it is. You are taking it as wrong action, but in this context, wrong action is that which takes you away. Means you didn't plan to reach the goal. But what you're saying is correct. But in this context, of course, when we're talking of right action, meaning you have figured, you have thought that, okay, this is getting me there, and therefore done it.
Fine. Yeah. Because even if you get it wrong, you should finally be able to learn from that, do it the right way, And that's when your discrimination is complete, because that was wrong. This is right. And now your discrimination is complete.
Yes. And you will not go on repeating that action which didn't get you the result.
Yeah.
Most
Thank you.
people do that, right? I do this. It is that done. I mean, you do it. You're not getting the result. Lots of our actions are because I like doing something, or this is the way I am, or we think like that. We function like all the time. That's not how an achiever can ever function. And by achiever, I don't mean that you have to go and become Bill Gates. Achiever means your life is the way you would like it to be. That's all it means. In this context, please, it's always in context. So if we keep doing that, we keep figuring out what needs to be done. Okay, I had an altercation with my spouse. Then I don't settle with, oh, he's like that and I'm like this. I decide to myself, what is it I want? Do I want another altercation? In which case I can repeat this action, happily repeat it. If I don't want it, I got to figure out a different way of doing this. And that's true across the board for everything. So use includes discrimination. Use meaning before every action. I have tried to figure out what will get me the result I want. Not randomly doing actions because I like it. Because it's so nice. Random actions going on. So when we start doing that, we become, like we mean business in whatever we do. We're not just, oh, okay, ho jayega, to acha hai, nahi hoga, to nahi. We function like that. All right, so shall we continue?
Yes, please.
One human action has multifarious consequences. They can be financial, social, physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual aspects. So many things, right? Your husband said something to you, and you said something back to your husband, whatever it was. Now, there can be so many repercussions: financial, social, physical, emotional, intellectual, spiritual. How many repercussions? How many can the individual consider before performing an action? Have you thought it? Like, you go to work, you do some kind of work. Do you realize the spiritual aspect of that work? I mean, like, what is the kind of person that work is making you become? What are the intellectual aspects of it? When we go to work, normally, most people can think of only one aspect. Which one?
Money.
The financial aspect. That's all. What about the social aspect? How is your work affecting society or whatever? Any way you're looking at the social aspect, physical aspect. What is your work doing to your own physical body, if anything? What about your emotions? What is it doing to your emotions? What about your intellect? What is it doing to your intellect? What about you? What is that work making you become? How many can an individual consider before performing an action? So this is not just for work, this is for everything. When you speak to your maid, when you decide to go on a holiday, what all have you considered? How many can the individual consider before performing an action? Without delaying the action. This is the other thing. Some people sit down and consider what is financial, what is social, what is physical, what is emotional, what is intellectual, what is spiritual. But the action was supposed to be done last year. So without delaying action, you don't have all the time in the world, right? You're not getting any younger. So you're not delaying action. You're taking the action at the right time after having considered everything. Sounds so complex when you put it like this. Now and say, how? We have to do it fast also. You have to think of everything also. How is this all going to happen? But it's just a matter of practice. The faster the fields he can consider, the better the quality of the intellect. That means more pervasive, right? The intellect is. Thus, the quality of the intellect is based on one, areas covered. Is one seeing the repercussions in just one field, say finances or health? Just realize how often we do this? Just see the repercussions in one area. Like this lady here. If I work 24/7, I will be rich. But the other one says, but what will happen to your health or relationships? Have you ever thought of that? Then time covered. How far into the future can one see the consequences? So here's an example. You've gone to the mall, you've seen some designer bags. It costs 25,000, but you don't have any money in your purse. But you got a credit card. So you buy it very happily with your credit card. And then end of the month, you have a whole bunch of bills to deal with. People think, all the cartoons and all of them, they show that the bills are coming to people and people are all worried about those bills. It's almost like they don't expect those bills. What were they thinking? Oh, bill has come. How horrible, how horrible. How horrible. You consume something, you get the bill. And the speed, the pace at which one can do it. At age 25, should I get married? Now, when he starts thinking, should I get married? He's thinking of financial, social, mental, intellectual, so many aspects he's thinking of. Now he's come to age 75. He's still thinking, should I get married? What will happen to my physical, mental? I think, Baba, when are you going to decide? So, speed at which you decide. Right? So, the caliber of the intellect is known by all these things. 4. Very important. Understanding. How many of my actions were propelled by this? So here, this is this guy. He's at his work desk. He's thinking, he sees all the motivational messages. Work brings success. Then a few hours later, he's got 256 mails. He's thinking, work is really important. Okay, but when are you going to do it? It's like us and Vedanta. Oh, Vedanta is very important. What are you doing? Oh, Vedanta is very good. I hear it all the time about how great Vedanta is. So what are you doing about it? No actions are propelled by this. So what's this now? We have Momita. Doesn't the spiritual cover other areas? Depends on how you use these terms, of course, but you could have like health repercussions as different from your spiritual, or may not be. It depends on how you're defining the term. If you're using spiritual in the broad umbrella of everything, then yes. But many people will do things like silly things, like they'll fast when they got diabetes or something. So you are only thinking, okay, I'm doing my spiritual, whatever you think you should be doing, but not taking care of the body that's supposed to help you with your spiritual life. So we get lopsided about things pretty much quickly.
But for our purposes, spiritual always means knowledge of reality.
Yes, but when it actually comes to execution, that definition doesn't work. That's why the 4th point of this is how many of the actions are propelled by that understanding.
Yes, but initially you said that when we are looking at, say, our job, are we considering how it helps us grow spiritually also? So it would be wrong to think of spirituality then in terms of just social ethics or?
That's not for us to say for another person. Like that person should have considered. If he considered it, that means his intellect is capable of more. We are not even telling anybody to consider. The question is, how many things did you consider before you decided on this action?
But if he is thinking about spirituality in those terms, then he can't, I mean, then his intellect can't grow, because that's a very...
We can't, no, we cannot make comments for others. He thought of it and he has lived by it and learned from it, not learned from him. All that is different, is just different facets of the intellect. Otherwise, every one of us is spiritually wrong. Which of us is wrong? Everyone is somewhere, and so we're doing something right, something's wrong, and generally making our way, right? Everything is wrong from a higher perspective. Everything is right from a lower perspective.
Okay, so if we are actually thinking of a decision in terms of whatever it is that we consider spiritual also, along with other things, then it will help our intellect.
Yeah, I mean, you have exercised that intellect that much more, right?
Yes.
And you may have noticed it in your own life. At some point in your life, you thought X, Y, and Z will affect me in spirituality or whatever name you gave it at that time. And you were right, because for that level that was right, and so you grow to understand something else.
Okay.
Rahul Roy, are you there, Rahul Roy? If we think about all the dimensions of consequences before an action, doesn't it lead to analysis paralysis? What leads to analysis paralysis is the fact that you're not thinking of all the dimensions. You're thinking of only a few. Because there are consequences of delaying action as much as there are consequences of performing action. Right? That is why the fourth, that is somewhere, one of those points were is how soon do you do it? If you delay action, you are not seeing the consequences of that delay in action. Remember that guy is 25, he's thinking of all sorts of things. Then 75, he's still thinking of those things. So it shows lack of interest. So you're not thinking of the consequences of inaction. So therefore, not good. Make sense? Do I know you, Rahul? I've never seen you before in class. Is it your first class? Mm-hmm. Rahul, are you okay with it? I think you must be new, because most new people somehow don't talk to me. Do I look like very frightening, like I'm going to bite somebody's head off or something? New people never speak to me. I think I grow on acquaintance. Bhavna. How will we analyze? We are thinking about all the dimensions. We can't do all that, Bhavna, because it's based on the intellect, right? So, as much developed as the intellect is, to that extent, we will see these things. We cannot force it on ourselves. So, what we can see, we must execute. Then more things will become available. Otherwise, there'll be nobody who can think of everything. But whatever we can see, we execute. Whatever you can see, you execute. And slowly it grows. It grows by the use. But in theory, you have all these things: physical, mental, intellectual. In theory, you have that. But even though we say it, it's not of any practical use, really. I mean, minor practical use. Okay? All right. Then, shall we continue? top fan badge. Sorry, can you just go up a bit, Mahesh? So the fourth one is how many of our actions were propelled by this understanding. So this guy believes that work is important, but how many of his actions are propelled by it? Many people believe Vedanta is important, but how many of your actions are propelled by it? Many people say, I don't know, whatever you think is important. Being understanding of others is important. And how many of your actions are propelled by it? So this is the fourth thing. How much of it is propelling action? Then the meeting of these factors will decrease the quality of an individual's intellect. About trying to clean a cupboard, that is the second example. Here, suppose a person decides to clean a cupboard. So you open your cupboard and you say, oh, these things don't belong to this cupboard. I should put them in that cupboard. Okay, and then you go to the next cupboard. And then you say, oh, but these things aren't supposed to be in cupboard number 2. I should go and put them now in cupboard number 3. And then you do that again. And then you go to cupboard number 3, you find something wrong with that. So you start dealing with cupboard number 3. So 5 hours later, the whole home is in a mess. But nothing has been cleaned. We do this intellectually also. We go from one topic to another topic to another. And we do this physically also. So can you stop? You're cleaning one cupboard, clean that cupboard. Then you open another cupboard and you clean the second cupboard. But no, you open all together. Then you feel helpless. Just doing jobs one after the other. Otherwise, you're working so hard. And then you feel like it's all a mess because it is all a mess. So the meeting of these factors will decrease the quality of an individual's intellect. It is quite possible to start thinking of consequences in various fields and get lost in the quagmire. That's how people get locked into indecision or inaction. They try to cover more areas than the intellect can handle, much like opening all cupboards in the attempt of cleaning them. We do exactly this at the intellectual level. Jump from issue to issue, move from area to area without resolving any, and so never reach any conclusion or take any action. And people say, oh, don't think so much. It's like the friend of the lady in the image above saying, oh, don't clean so much. While the intention was to clean, what she currently has is a messy house. Thus, when one opens up too much, one gets disorganized. That is where knowledge comes in. It integrates. Laws are, okay, is this clear that you cannot open up too many things? Bhavna, this is in response to your point also. That you can't just keep thinking of many, many things because that's what Rahul said, you go into analysis paralysis. Because you're opening up more than you're capable of handling. So what we have to do is just handle what we are capable of seeing. And in the natural course of events, more things will open for us to see. When one opens up too much, one gets disorganized. This is where knowledge comes in. It integrates. Laws are, after all, just a few formulas. And higher formulas integrate lower ones. So the higher the formula you've learned, you don't need to learn the lower ones. So the higher the formula one has understood, the greater the consequences covered within it. Thus, with minimum effort, one deals with wide-ranging consequences. Otherwise, you can go crazy trying to do this. So you have to amalgamate it in higher principles, which we've already studied. It's just a repetition of that idea. Knowledge or thought is the Homo sapiens invention to avoid physical effort. The more the knowledge, the lesser the effort required to get the same job done. Thinking was invented by man when he saw he could get things done without effort. To protect himself and his goods from wild animals, man had to stay awake all night. Then he figured out that if he can keep the fire going all night, he can sleep peacefully, and the nocturnal marauders would not bother him. So too was the wheel an invention to save the work of transportation. Man was on to a good thing when he thought of thinking. And from there, he never looked back. And women figured that if they could look prettier, they could get the men to do all the work for them. And thus were born mirrors and makeup. Some men wised up to it, invented religion, and said makeup was bad. They decreed that women should be devoted to men. And women said, no, a woman's role is to look after the house, which had not yet been created. And thus they argued, and philosophy was born. And this little bit of fake history only goes to show how people are trying to avoid effort. Okay, it's fake history. Now don't start questioning, is this true or not? Animals do not think in terms of this or look for tools. Hence, man is also known as a tool-making animal. The brightest brains in the animal world come up with the most basic tools. But what humans can achieve is stupendous. With better thought, we can perfect our actions. The more you think, the better your action will be. After all, thought, after all, is meant to improve action, not replace it. Okay, so what did we learn in this subtopic? We learned that action is what you do with knowledge. Action is what improves knowledge. So this is like a loop you can create for yourself. And the more you do this, the more you apply your thinking to the action itself and get better and better actions. The consequences
a better life.
Yes, but before that, what is a better life for humans? What would they think is a better?
Goals achieved.
Sorry?
Goals achieved.
Okay, so what is it that they were? Okay, fine, that's true, but in the context that we are talking about.
Correct actions.
Okay, so that's what I say. The better your discrimination, the more correct your actions, consequences. What? Nobody's listening. Everyone went to sleep. It's so boring. At the end of the book, at least now pay attention. What happened here? If you get your action better and better and better and better and better and better, why? Because your understanding has got so much better. Your discrimination is better. So your action is better. Consequence is going to be
satisfactory.
What happened? Just read it, no? Koi sunni raha. I don't know why I speak. What is going to be the result of your better action and your better discrimination? Oh, Deep Raj, very good. The consequence of better action and the consequence of better discrimination is less action. That whole long story is because people didn't want to work in the first place. So the better your discrimination is, the less action you will eventually end up doing. the worse your discrimination is, the more action you'll end up doing. So you'll be working very, very, very hard and getting all worked up. But what you're getting is very little of it. But you improve action by improving discrimination. Discrimination gets better and better. Action will reduce automatically. And you will achieve the same goals with less effort. All right, this topic is clear. Shall we move on? All right, now what we have studied so far is how we get ourselves to do things better. But human beings have one more, what shall I say, arrow in their quiver. We have one more ability. We have one more strength. And that strength, also of the intellect, is our capacity to work together. That's a massive strength. Because just imagine if we had a community of people who had better and better discrimination and better action, and a community of people like that. Can you imagine what will be the consequence of that? So one other aspect of the intellect is our capacity to work together. Okay, so the first part we said in action is that you must learn the perfection of action. Second part of action is learning to work together. Not all actions and accomplishments are possible by a single individual. You know, we are very small people. We are pathetic creatures. We can't do anything. If a tiger chased you, what will you do? You have to just surrender and die. Because what are you going to do? We're really pathetic creatures. Even a mosquito biting us can kill us. We're pathetic. But we are the dominant species on the planet. What makes us so? We have gotten rid of all the tigers. And then we said, oh, we got rid of them and then we brought them back. This is our capacities. Not all actions and accomplishments are possible by a single individual. It usually requires a group endeavor. Part of doing the action is making others act too. Hence, it is important not only to think of doing the right action, but to also motivate others to do it. We must cognize what will convince the other person. It may not be what would have convinced us, but one cannot bait fish with strawberries. You cannot say, I love strawberries, so I'll put it as a bait for fish. No fish will come and eat those strawberries. One cannot make an intellectual appeal to an emotional person or an emotional appeal to an intellectual. They will not relate to it. Neither is it necessary to say anything every time. Sometimes it will be more effective to convey without words. Persuasion is the art of making a person undertake his journey for his reasons to the goal you want. So here's a quote by George Bernard Shaw. The single biggest problem in communication, excuse me, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. And I'm sure all of us who do Karma Yoga can completely relate to this idea. You thought that you told somebody to do something, but they thought you said something else, and end result is chaos. But I said and you said we'll start. The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. You know, I have a maid, recent acquisition. She only speaks Kannada. And she knows a few Hindi words. Means you can tell her words like dal, chapati. She knows Hindi words. And she speaks Kannada. What she doesn't know in Hindi are tenses. Means she has no way of telling you in Hindi whether she has done something, is doing that thing, or plans to do it at a future date. Yes, Raj, that's exactly what I do every day. So it's a bit difficult, as you can imagine. And that leads to, what should I say, interesting meals. Every day, it's always, what should I say? It's a luck of the draw. I mean, if you come to stay with us, you'll definitely get something to eat, but it may or may not be what you had intended it to be. And those of you who have dined here will completely understand what I am talking about. You can never tell what is going to happen. Keeps life interesting, you know. But every time I leave the kitchen, and after having told her what to make, I live under this wonderful delusion that I have communicated to her what the menu for the day is. Often I have not. So, the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has actually taken place. Hence, the whole structure needs to be well conceived and well executed. So, what is all that contained? To know the truth, to make others go along with it, and together to do whatever needs to be done to achieve it. 3 steps. You have to first know what is the right. Then you have to be able to execute the right thing that you know. Then you have to make sure others also do this. Then why will they do it? Because they are not seeing what you're seeing. So they have to do it for their reasons. May not be the reasons you would have in mind, but their reasons. Make others go along with it and to do whatever needs to be done to achieve it together. That is how you achieve success. I mean, it's amazing. They talk so much about motivation, making people do things. And the world's greatest motivators have had the worst reasons for telling people to do things. Have you ever realized that? Winston Churchill, who now we cannot praise anymore because he has done negative things to India so much. But regardless of how badly he behaved with us, the fact remains that when he went to war, he offered his people. Remember what he offered his people? Blood and sweat and toil and tears. He did not say, I will get you this and I will get you that. He said, you will give blood and toil and sweat and tears. And they won the war. Right? So very often we believe things will motivate people, but that's not really true. You have to know the laws of the human mind to deal with. Okay, Mahesh, let's continue. Attitude and action. A good attitude in life is very important. Look at another point here. One is action. That you know the right action, you do the right action, you get others to also do the right action for their reasons. That was one aspect. The other aspect is attitudes. A good attitude in life is very important. Does a problem appear as an impenetrable wall or a roadblock which can be circumvented? A cheerful disposition, a willingness to learn, all these are fertile grounds for success. The opposite is tamas, to see no hope, to live in the past, darkness, despondency. A rajasic person may generally be more positive, but it does not take much to drive him into negativity. A tamasic person begins pessimistic. Have you not seen people like that? Anytime you tell them something, you say, hoga hi nahi, hoga hi nahi, hoga hi nahi. When you say hoga hi nahi, you should say mujhse hoga nahi. But why do you tell other people unse hoga hi nahi? It makes no sense. A tamasic person begins pessimistically. A rajasic person becomes a pessimist when he meets failure. The tamasic person will say, oh, shadi mein kya rakha hai, dekho in logon. Rajasic person is all enthusiastic about getting married. But if he meets some negative experiences, then he becomes very pessimistic about the whole. A sattvic person continues ever enthusiastic, unaffected by the results of his endeavor. And I don't know who you think of when you read this thing, but I think Devanand was a very good example of this. He would make movies. Every year he would come out with a movie. I don't know if the youngsters know this, because you were probably not born when he was making movies, but older people will remember. Every year he will come out with a movie. Every year that movie will be a flop. He will have he's now like 80 years old and his heroine is 20 years old. But he will continue to make these movies. He will continue to do his own stuff in them. And until his dying moment, he kept doing that. Very enthusiastic. So that element of enthusiasm is what we're talking about. Never mind whether you're winning or failing or succeeding. Be enthusiastic to find out better ways, more ways. Surely, I can think of a better way of doing this. So that these attitudes in life are pretty much very important. Keeps you cheerful and success and enthusiastic about things rather than kuch nahi hoga, kya hoga. It's depressing to talk to such people. Just be like, have fun with it. Have good attitudes in whatever we do. So there's a very famous motivational poem, nice way to come to the end of the book. Mm-hmm. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you like to win but think you can't, it's almost certain you won't. If you think you lose, you've lost. For out of the world we find, success begins with the fellow's will. It's all in the state of the mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But soon or late, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. You think something is worth doing, just go ahead and do it. What are you saying? Let me see. What would be the difference between the example and tamasic actor? This example and tamasic actor. Tamasic actor also disregards ability to perform action. You mean Devanand's example? Is that the example you're referring to?
Yes.
See, Devanand is an actor, a filmmaker. That's what he does. Now, if he grows old, he cannot suddenly become, I don't know, embroidery expert. I mean, he could if that is also part of his last names. But the other guy who is an actor, a filmmaker, and to his dying day, he's an actor and he's a filmmaker. So that's great, right? If that is his swadharma, that's what he did till his last day. Now, you disregard ability means you are making an error of judgment that maybe you could make a better type of film or something like that, or another type of film, not better, where an 80-year-old is not really playing the role of a 25-year-old romantic hero. He could do all those things, but he would have to be doing what he is, right? What else will he do? Imagine now, suppose, Bharat, you are 102 years old. What will you be doing when you're 102 years old, Bharat?
I don't know. Hopefully not lifting 300 kgs.
Well, but you will be
attending Vedanta classes and organizing, helping.
Organizing, yes. And still going to the gym and lifting what you can. I mean, at that time, maybe you were left, I don't know, 25 kgs. So it's not your failure, right? You're doing what you can. And there's something very nice about just doing what you can. We may not be able to do the best, but we can do what we can. So when you disregard ability, it means more a sense of disregarding consequences or doing more than you are capable. But he's doing what he is capable. Okay. Maybe we will continue next time. Okay, Bharat? You can
Yes.
have a problem, we can talk about it next time.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Hariom.
Thank you, Janki.
Hari Om. Thank you, Janki ji.
Hariom Janki ji.
Yeah.
Thank you, Janki ji. Hari Om.